What brought me here was I love to teach. I love to teach and to learn from students. So the opportunity to lecture in front of some undergrads is precious to me. I used to beg people to listen to me, and now they bring me here, so it's my honor. The short form is the oldest form of literature. It's the one we first had. And there are many ancient analogs, like the haiku, the couplet, the salutation, the epitaph, the headline. And in modern day, we have the telegram, the instant message, the status update. And that is what led us to start to find smaller and smaller spaces to write. And when we were experimenting with the idea for Twitter, it was about trying to fit everything inside a text message. And so that was the original vector. And so 140 characters allowed us space to put the username and then the message. There's a long history behind the text message limitation. It's basically had to do with an engineer who was from Germany, was creating a specification for GSM, and did a survey of popular quotations and sentences he was trying to write, and then did an average count. It came up with 160, which it turns out is actually a human cognitive limit that we have. And if you want more information on that, you should research Robin Dunbar and what he calls Dunbar's number, which has to do with the amount of information we can carry in the sort of RAM of our brain, the neocortex. Great question. So Twitter is sort of integral now. I get a lot of my information from Twitter. In fact, I don't consume what would be called traditional news. I don't subscribe to newspapers. I don't even download digital newspapers. I don't watch television. I only have my 886 or so people that I follow on Twitter and the raw news. So when there's something happening, I hear about it before anyone else in the news because I'm checking the source. So the people I love to follow are the founders of the company, like Jack. He's great. He keeps his style despite having millions of followers. So my friends, the president, people I've met, like LeVar Burton, people who follow me back, people like the person I just met in Abu Dhabi, the princess, who is an amazing person, enlightened person, who's very good at writing. So I like to follow people who love to write. And as far as I'm concerned, this system is about writing. It's less about anything to do with media and more to do about connecting with individuals. So if you can write something that creates a reaction or engages with an audience, that is what I like to focus on. So focusing on the action behind those words. So whenever I write, it's about giving someone sort of instruction or giving someone something to do. Like I wrote about coming here, visit USC to see me speak. That's how I write. I tell my audience the point. I tell them an action. I call them to action. I try. So I have a sort of different approach, which is I try to find people that I love and get them to sign up and start following me as their first subscription. And I've done that from the beginning. And the first person I got to follow me was my wife. And she immediately became skeptical of this. In fact, her first message, she's the first woman to ever handwrite a message on Twitter. And her message was, "I'll check back later." So it's always been my challenge to find people that I love on the system. And it's entertaining them and giving them something to read that drives me. So I think of one person in my audience whenever I write. I don't think about the 37,000 other people, just one person, like LeVar or like my wife or my dad or my brother. And they're busy people who don't spend a lot of time in digital media. So finding a purpose for them to check in with me is what I try to do. Because everyone else, they're addicted to it already. So I try to get everyone that I love to try and find a purpose with it. Right immediately after the creation of Twitter, we used it to create a community called iOS Developer Camp. And from first tweet to first seat were 21 days of organization. And we found each other entirely over the Twitter ecosystem. And it was about finding those people who had passion for the iPhone and just bringing them into the same room. And we had about 400 nerds, everyone we could find with an iPhone, and created this community. And we had no idea at the time how big it would be, but we thought, it would take off. And we sort of bet on that. And this was before there was a developer kit. It was web only, and that's the roots of this community, was open source. And so almost every company I've been involved in has come out of that organization, and there have been many. There's the first year we had the person who created the Facebook app. He won Best Open Source. We had the person who built the most popular iPhone game of its time, Trism, break out from the jailbreak community after visiting our camp. We've had the founders of Square introduced at our camp. We had the founders of Tapulous, which is a popular company that built Tap Tap Revenge. They sponsored us, and then they were bought by Disney. We had the creators, some of my co-founders, formed a company called Small Society, which was bought by Walmart. And there's been this massive turnover for each of the people who've won in the contest or won as part of our sort of worldwide satellite group, have gone on to have success. And the camp is very simple. It's what we call a hackathon or a meritocracy. Mm-hmm. And on Friday, we give a pitch session for everyone to spend 30 seconds trying to find a team. And the whole point is to create founding teams. So we organize them on Saturday of a brief inspirational speech, and then give them the mic. We give them a chance to ask any question. We provide Wi-Fi, power, seat, coffee, beer if they need it, and then access to the community. We bring gurus in, and they know different aspects of development or design. So all day Saturday, it's basically collaboration, and then all day Sunday is the contest. So we try to encourage co-opetition, right? So folks who have skills match with folks who need them, and then we give them 3 minutes on stage to demonstrate. And then in the end, we take all of our sponsorship money and give it away. And the purpose is to provide access to these developers for folks who wouldn't normally have it, and give them also access to the investor community. So on Sunday, we have the event open to the public, and we publicize the winners and give them a lot of support, and we encourage them to open source their stuff. And so every year we have the majority of people give away all their source code, which is a tremendous boon. But it's amazing what can happen in 48 hours. Food spotting was created that way. The PayPal developer network started at one of our camps. The company NG Moco, I don't know if you know this company, but they produce a lot of popular iPhone games. They launched their labs initiative at our camp. And it's been success story after success story. Temple Run was created by a bunch of alumni. It goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And what happens is there's just amazing goodwill that comes from giving stuff away. Mm-hmm. And so it's an access that we try to provide. And so out of that came my company, Dollar App, which is a very simple premise. It's this idea that you should work on one thing at a time that does one thing better than any other thing out in the App Store. And you do this for 1 month with one other person, and that would allow you to charge $1 for the download. And it's like an idea filter. You can take any idea and put it through this regime. And at the end of 1 month, you have this choice where you ship it or not. And you decide, well, what's it worth? Is it worth $1? Who's it worth $1 or $2? And it allows you to kind of find your market and then ship it quickly without risking too much and hurting too many people if you fail. So I took this idea and I built an entire company around it, and I did that for a couple of years, and it was recently purchased by Chaotic Moon, and they brought me in as their chief product officer. So I have this now, this team, this design team and developer team, to take this idea to the next level and scale it up. Well, I love team building. So I really do it for the people that I work with. And the great example is the Obama application you mentioned, Obama 08. This was a group of volunteers that came from the camp. And one of the things behind the camp is this sort of self-selection of great people who are altruistic or have great karma, however you want to think about it, that you can trust. And so the 10 of us did it for free, but we did it for each other because we knew there was so much on the line. And we did it again in 22 days from napkin sketch to first download. And most of the great achievements in my life have happened in under a month. Even Twitter itself was created, the first working code was done in 3 or 4 weeks. So, this philosophy of doing things extremely well and doing them quickly with an amazing team is my passion. I like to do 1.0 projects, bring things to life from scratch. That's my passion. And so if that makes money, great. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but most times it leads to creating an amazing team under pressure. And it's that I love to do. I do talk about this when I get on stage. Everyone asks this question, what's the future of social networks in particular? And I like to point out examples of what I call niche social networks. So networks that form a specific purpose or form a specific kind of community. And an example I mentioned earlier was Square. So this is a social network that has a very specific relationship between the two participants, merchant and customer, and a very specific kind of information, which is that transaction. And there are other examples from the community. There's Path, which is a very specific kind of network. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's a very personal social network that limits the total number of people who are part of your community. And as we experiment with different limits, whether it's the number of characters, the number of followers, the type of communication, we see how that niche network fits a specific need. And the future, I think, is a network that is, possibly more private, more secure, more real time than what we've seen so far. And there are definitely niches that need to be filled, right? One of them is healthcare. So I've yet to see a great social network for healthcare, having control of your own personal information and your healthcare information. I've yet to see a great personal network for political survey or political voting. I think that's the sort of holy grail, which is something that would be so trustworthy, so secure, that you could almost use it to predict the future. And taking survey is one of those things. Certainly voting would be, the end-all, be-all of an app. But I think we're very far away from that. I think things like Square are moving in that direction, but we have many more steps to go. I like to give people a little bit of advice. Definitely follow the tricks and tips of literature. So try a little poetry. Try to follow this tradition of the quotation. Provide a call to action. And my call to action here would be to follow me on Twitter. That's @Dom, or you can learn more about the book @thebook. And you can always learn more about me at dom.net.